Good evening, guys. Good afternoon, wherever you are, guys. The one thing I need to stress to you is that my love for politics is unparalleled. I love politics, but the only problem with me is the fear of the unknown. I don't have the courage, the motivation to get involved in it. But here's the thing. Let's not talk about myself in terms of politics. But here's the thing. I think I've put out 2 videos in the last few weeks where I was responding to the march talked about in the western side of Zimbabwe, the Mtwakazi thing. And I think one of the things that I'm outlined in which was some sort of me dismissing the argument of Mtwakazi and the idea of for splitting Zimbabwe was, while it's true that there is lack of development in Matabeleland, the truth of the matter is all provinces in Zimbabwe need to be developed. There's no development in all provinces. Let's not talk about towns. Yes, if we talk about the Harare province, which is now, yes, it's a province, but that's Harare. But then we have got other provinces that extend into the rural areas. We have got Masvingo, which extends the border with Beit Bridge. Then it goes to Chirai, the Triangle, the border with Chipinge. We also have Manicaland. We also have Mashonaland. We have got the Midlands, which goes to Gokwe, to Kariba Dam. All these provinces, they need development. But then, I think probably it's not me, but everybody in the country talks about, the new dispensation, the new politicians, or new political parties talking about, taking over from the current government. For me, this video is not about the current government and whatever they are doing. They've got a duty. They are doing what they can, and they are supporting the population as best as they can. But I think my challenge is to the people that are proposing, to take over, that have got this policy they think can take us forward as a country. And yes, in the current government, there are people that want to take over from when the president leaves office. I'm not going to be worried about that. Even if they stay with the same policy as they are, to me, that's not a point. That's not the reason I'm making this debate. But for any new politician, 21st new generation of politicians, the idea of getting into the political playing field is about to make a difference. And when you want to make a difference in the political system, you don't just bring the same old ideas. You don't. Probably making changes in terms of maybe if the current government has got 30 ministers, maybe you want 25. If, you have got the governors, probably you'll say we want city fathers, mayors and whatever. That's not, for me, that's not a change. I think because of the lack of development in the country and the way the resources are being managed at this point, I would propose a different kind of government, probably that will touch on the constitution that we already have in the country, because there are new systems, the new ways of doing politics in the country that will need to be reflected on the constitution, because the constitution needs to be tweaked to accommodate the new changes. And if it's a political system or a political party or a new political leadership that's coming in and we don't want to change those sort of changes and we go on with whatever we have, then for me, that's not the change I want. I want the real change. And for me, real change is to look at the development that the country is crying for. And by development, I'm talking of development of Mashonaland, Masvingo, Matabeleland, Manicaland, the Midlands. All these provinces have got their own issues: water, unemployment, roads, and many others. And what I am proposing is, yes, I know a lot of you will come to me or will argue that already we've got we don't have centralization because, we've got the mayors, we've got the governors and so forth. But I think let's agree, the current system in Zimbabwe is a centralized government system. Everything comes from Harare. And, well, there's nothing wrong in the centralized system because it suits the current policies that we have, the government that they have at this point. But I think if we are to progress as a country, and if each and every province has to develop, that needs to change. And how do we change? Is decentralization is the best. Decentralized government system. Let the provinces run their own affairs. Let's have a central government, yes, in Harare, but also we need to empower. We need some real autonomy of the provinces. Where by province, I'm talking of the traditional ones. That is Masvingo, where I come from. I will always start with Masvingo. Then we've got Matabeleland, we've got the Midlands, we've got Mashonaland, we've got Manicaland. Mashonaland probably we've got East and West. So we need that sort of decentralization. But the decentralization is not decentralization that we just talk about. But we want a pragmatic decentralization that addresses the issues in each and every province that we have as a country. And how do we do that? I know way back, probably in 2012, 13, when I was a political science student, I wrote on my Facebook at the time that we wanted a government system that accommodates all these issues. They are not new in terms of development. They are not new. I used to describe Zimbabwe as probably a boat builder, the country as a boat builder. Where you have got muscles at the top, and as you go down your body, the slimmer you become. So in Zimbabwe, what we have is we have got Harare, but as soon as you leave Harare, there's development, but there's lack of development as we move out of this Harare. So you can't expect to have the same kind of services in Gweru that you get in Harare. You can't get the same services in Masvingo. Everything has to be in Harare. Everything has to be in Harare. The airport, the nice airport, everything else, birth certificate, passports, everything. It's all in Harare. And development is all around Harare, which I think needs to be addressed. And the best way to address it is a system of government that is decentralized, not just paying lip service to decentralization, but a pragmatic decentralization that allows the province to be autonomous. Here's the thing, we know countries, we've got the EU, we have got the United States of America, which has got the federal government system. And I think, yes, Zimbabwe could be small in terms of its geography. But I think given the differences that we have in terms of the tribes that we have in the country, it makes sense to have a federal government system. It makes sense to have autonomous provinces. It makes sense to manage our political affairs in a federal kind of system. And don't get me wrong, I know there is some development throughout the country, but I think that sort of development is not what we expect, especially after 44 years. We want more. We want more. And, a federal government system, I think it helps. And it has got its own advantages, plenty of them, and disadvantages. But don't get me wrong. For me, given the issues that we are having with Mtwakazi and the different provinces crying for provinces crying for development, provinces crying for some basic services like clinics, the roads, and everything. I think for me, if people in a province, given when they've got the powers, when their province is autonomous, they'll be able to see where they are lacking as a province. The airports, the stadiums, the roads, good roads, and water resources, rivers of waters. We want all this power generation. Each and every province will work to have all these services that I'm talking about, all these things that we are talking about as a country. Don't get me wrong. This is, when you go on the campaign trail, you don't talk about the current president. You don't talk about any other party when you are talking about real issues. Real issues, you talk about the real issues. And for me, when someone embarks on talking about federal government system and its benefits, you are not talking about anybody, but talking about what we call real new political dispensation. I know we have got MDC, we have got CC, but yes, they were different. But for me, the kind of government system they were proposing wasn't any different from what we have had since independence. They were the same. Don't get me wrong, they were different people, but the same kind of government system. But with the federalism, you are, if a political party proposes a federal government system, then you are actually acknowledging the differences that we have in the country. You are acknowledging the lack of development in each and every province. You are acknowledging the mistake of the government system that we have already. You are acknowledging the fact that a new way of addressing issues is needed. Other than just talking of, I'm CC, I'm wearing yellow, I was wearing red, then I'm wearing a blue tie. For me, those are not the changes that we want as a country. And if we are to be an independent and a thriving country, we need to be real. We need to acknowledge the mistakes done by the past political parties, the government. We need to acknowledge that there is lack of development everywhere in the country. Then what we propose is the measures that we think will address those problems as a country. So anybody who is trying to convince Zimbabweans to say, okay, we have got a new political party and I'm going to be the president, without acknowledging all these issues that I'm trying to say, there is no way you can say you are any different. And for me, part of dealing with issues like Mtwakas, where people are proposing to partition the country, you are saying, we know, if you propose a federal government system, you are saying, we know there is lack of development in Matabeleland, and we accept that it is the way the setup is, the way things are set up, that creates all this underdevelopment in the country. Yes. And I think people who are talking about the separation, talk about the split, will listen and, support the plan, other than continue to talk of separation, because I think a federal system is the answer. For me, it is the answer to the problems that we have as a country right now. So here are the reasons why I say a federal government system will make sense for Zimbabwe. One, it's efficient governance and administration due to the division of powers between the union and the states. The union, which means the central government, and the states, which is the province that we have, it's 5. Yes, people say we've got 10 provinces, but to me, we know there are 5. Let me count them. We've got Masvingo, Matabeleland, Manicaland, Midlands, Mashonaland. Probably, if we say East and West, then they become 6. But yes. So we have got the efficient governance and administration due to the division of the powers between the union and the states. That's one. Then the second thing, separate rights for states or provinces. They've got separate rights. The states or the province that we're talking about. and an excellent utilization of resources. We are not looking at the national resources, we are looking at the provincial resources, because we have decentralization. So each province becomes autonomous, managing its own resources, managing its own affairs, as agreed with the union. I think for all that to work, we will have laws that make it that way. That's 2. That's 3. Peaceful political association of multi-ethnic groups. You see, we have got so many ethnic groups in Zimbabwe. We have got so many tribes, if you like, in Zimbabwe. So by using this federal system of government, we have got a peaceful way, or a peaceful political association of multi-ethnic groups in the country. I think everybody likes that. Instead of having this Mtwakazi discussion, the Mtwakazi people will be, or their province will be autonomous, managing their own affairs as agreed within the union. The people in Masvingo the same, the people in Manicaland the same, the people in Mashonaland, the east and west the same, the Midlands the same. Okay. Then number 5, a stronger and more stable union. So when you have got this federal system of government and the states are autonomous within the union, the stronger and stable union. Nobody will be talking of we need to separate, because they are managing their own affairs. They are autonomous. The key word is autonomous, managing your own affairs. You've got your resources, managing them the right way. Separate rights, or for states and provinces, as I said. Then efficient governance and administration due to the division of powers between the union and the states. That's what we need. We know that this is what our country needs, but at the moment we still have the system that that was left by Ian Smith, and that's not working. Yes, it's working, but there is a little bit of an iron fist that makes it work, which we don't want. And probably you would say people are just voting, people are just doing this, because they've got no choice. But with the federal system of government, it makes a huge difference, and it makes more sense for the people of Zimbabwe, if you ask me. Then no fear of majority. There's no fear that, we are this side of the province, so our affairs, Mashonaland will take over all the development that we need, all the money that's put aside by the government. We won't have all that, because people in Masvingo manage their own affairs, budgets and everything. Then people in Midland the same, Mashonaland East and Mashonaland West the same, Manicaland the same, and the same applies to Matabeleland. Then there is equitable development and growth of the nation. Equitable development and growth of the nation. Who doesn't like that? There is development in each and every province. There is development in each and every province. And that's exactly what the people of Zimbabwe want. So why don't we have political parties that are just coming in and not telling us exactly anything new? It's just the names of people. Oh, I'm CC. I used to wear yellow. I'm this. I used to wear this color. We've seen orange. We've seen yellow. We have seen green. We have seen pictures of people and so forth. Those political parties that we have at this point, they won't address the issues that we have as a country. So if we are to actually realize development, equitable development in the country, the only system that will ensure all that is a federal system of government. Then, because of the decentralization, because of the autonomy given to the province or states, there will be direct lines of communication between the citizens and all the levels of government. know it's not a cheap political system, but once it's in play, once it starts working, it's the best that an African country like Zimbabwe needs. And it's the best given the multiple ethnic groups that we have in the country and also in the continent as such. The federal system of government makes a lot of sense, I can tell you. So why do I have probably it's not everybody that understands what a federal system of government is, and I've got a definition here that gives us an idea of what a federal system of government is. Then a federalism, which brings about the federal system of government system, is a mode of political organization that unites separate states, in our case separate provinces or other polities within an overarching political system, in a way that allows each to maintain its own integrity. I'll use, instead of integrity, I'll say its own autonomy. The federal system does this by requiring that basic policies be made and implemented through negotiation in some form, so that all the members can share in making and executing decisions. The political principle that animates federal system emphasizes the primacy of bargaining and negotiated coordination among several power centers. They stress the virtues of dispersed power centers as a means for safeguarding individual and local liberties. For us as Zimbabweans, what we want is to address lagging development in each and every province. How can we do this and making sure the country remains one, not splitting? How can we do this and make sure everybody in each and every province is happy? The best way to do that is understanding that there are those differences, and the provinces need to be autonomous. The provinces need to manage their own affairs, as I said. So for me, anybody that's coming into Zimbabwe, anybody that comes into Zimbabwe to say, okay, I want to challenge the current government, if you don't offer anything different that acknowledges the difference that we have as a country, that doesn't acknowledge the lack of development in each and every province, a government that doesn't acknowledge the different tribes that we have in the country, because being from a different tribe, what we want is different. For example, we may continue to talk of, we need to grow crops in there. Matabeleland is different. Masvingo is different. It has got its own economic system based on their own resources. There is tourism in Matabeleland, if you like. There is mining probably in the Midlands. There is farming probably in Mashonaland. So, but the policies need to be different. Acknowledging the differences in climate, the difference in the people, and the differences in terms of, the problem that each and every province faces. So this is a challenge, not to the current government, because they are in a system they already been following for years. But for anybody that's want to give real change to the people of Zimbabwe, a real change, I'm not talking of superficial change, cosmetic change, I'm talking of real change, is to show acknowledgement of the differences, to acknowledge the lack of development in each and every province, and to also try and listen to the vociferous voices coming from a lot of people around the country talking about lack of development. We are being left behind, but at the expense, some other provinces are getting more and more and more and more when other provinces are not getting anything. So federal system of government, for me, is the best. But don't get me wrong, it has its own disadvantages. But I think for me, before we look at the disadvantages, the best thing we need to look at is what our issues are at this point. And for me, given the issues that I've seen and given the lack of development in each and every province, not just Matabeleland as people are talking about, Masvingo, Manicaland, Mashonaland, everybody, all these provinces have got issues. So the best way is to bring in a political system that gives autonomy to each and every province, and for each and every province to be able to address its own issues. And if that system is adopted, I'll tell you, Masvingo will have its own airport. The same applies to Gweru. The same applies to each and every province will need an airport. Each and every province will need a stadium. I'm talking of these, a stadium probably may not be that important, but we need that because everybody, when we talk of games, we're talking of the games are done in Harare, or they'll share games in Bulawayo. That shows that the country is not, the development is not spread throughout the country. It's just centered in Harare. Cricket, we know when there is a proper cricket is played in Harare. We don't want that. Each province should have a share. It's a huge cake, Zimbabwe. We all need each piece. We all need to share the cake. So politicians that are people who are aspiring politicians to be in this, to be president, to run, to be in office in Zimbabwe, real change that you can talk to bring to Zimbabwean people is change that acknowledges the differences in the provinces, the cultures, the country, the tribes that we have, and the different issues that we have in each and every province. And I think when we have such a government, it fosters security of the country, because each province will be defending itself very strongly. The gains of what Matabeleland creates will need to be defended by the people in Matabeleland. The same applies to Masvingo, the same applies to the Midland, the same applies to Manicaland, other than to have the central system of government, which at this point, if you ask me, yes, it addresses some of the issues, but it's not addressing all the issues. So for me, as a Zimbabwean, with all the love that I have for the country, a federal system of government is the answer to our many, many, many issues.